We can start with what preambles there are, I think. And then by the time we're finishing up a snake story, the folks who are coming will be here. Welcome to It's Copperhead season, up to number 6. Tonight we're going to have Dom Witten and DC Klein reading collaborative works. The little introduction to our series is that it's a collaborative. Uh, oh no, now I'm stuck. Uh, a collaborative project, to put in the grandest terms. Um, So maybe a couple months ago, we're roughly quarterly here. So maybe a couple months ago, we introduced Dom and TC, who had reached out to us and signed up blindly, not knowing what would be. We introduced them. They talked about and connected about their poetic resonances, and then they spent the last few months working together and bouncing things off and seeing what that kind of grinder process would create. So that's what we'll get here tonight. Tradition of the show is to begin with a snake story, crowdsourced, sometimes occasionally I think from Danica's dreams and or from the readers. Those are the three we've done so far, the three modes we've done so far. So we'll have one of those. Then there will be about maybe 40 minutes of reading. Does that sound right, everyone? And then if you hang around, there'll also be some time for questions or chatting, praise. We'll ask you to save any booing and hissing for the end as well. But in any case, let's get started. So we'll start. Danica, are you actually another tradition is Danica and I will check in with each other to see if we forgot some essential bit of information. Is anything missing, Danica?
I don't think so. I dropped the link to the sign up form in the
Okay.
chat. Um,
Um, yeah, so we could mention that it's open to any poets or artists who want to participate and you want to throw your name in the hat for a future session. Something that can definitely happen. So reach out. Link is in the chat. But yeah, let's get to our snake story. Coming to us tonight from DC. Is that right?
Let me unmute myself. Yes, that is right. And big thank you to my wife for being a incredible supporter of my poetry and for feeding the cat so she would be quiet during this event. The meowing was very consistent. Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm DC. I'm really honored to be here and be sharing a snake story and be reading with Dom, who's been a creative and kind collaborator through all this. Thank you, Danica and Jace, for maintaining this series and keeping it alive and inviting us to be part of it. Before I read, I wanted to share in the chat a couple of links to GoFundMe's for families in Gaza that have reached out to me. I think they've reached out to many people trying to get visibility for their GoFundMe's to help them eat and have clothes on their backs and find safety. So I'm sharing two of those. One is from Ali's family and one is from Mahmoud's family. And I just appreciate you donating or sharing those. And I appreciate everyone being here to listen. So thank you for that. I just shot those off into the chat, so they're there and I don't forget about them. And now, a snake story for you, because that's why we're here, right? She's gone. This is called Snakes on My Mind. When we lived in a suburb near the lake, Dad left the garage door open, just a crack, so a breeze could sneak into that space. A storage closet, a computer room. Mom drove me home from school. Whatever she was chastising me for melted in her mouth as we pulled up. A rattlesnake stretched out, nose to the gap. She repeatedly struck the car horn. Donald! Donald, close it up! With our heads out open windows, we watched the wide door shut, only to immediately start cranking up, grinding and clunking as it went. My father stepped out, assuming we had groceries, not serpents. Donald, shut the damn door! He looked at the snake, unmoving, rushed back to the button, and shut the damn garage door. I would stand in there later, shivering, nervous, watching through the thin windows, while with bucket and hockey stick, my father moved the snake to the street. My mother gasping and yelling entirely unhelpful remarks and chides. Then they called animal control. It'll be a while, they said on the phone. Neighborhood kids chopped the thing up with a common garden shovel, and a moped ran it over. My father was disappointed. My mother was disappointed, and animal control 30 minutes later was pretty disappointed. The whole ordeal became a good story, and I was disappointed. But an hour of relief is a blessing, hidden in the grass until it's over. Thank you.
Thank you, DC. Danica, do you recall, did we set an order and I forgot it?
No, we failed to set an order.
Okay, okay.
DC and Dom, who's going first?
We were actually considering doing this as a popcorn reading, so actually swapping back and forth who is reading. So next will be Dom with what will be an incredible poem, and then I will read again.
Okay.
Perfect.
Should we do both your bios up front then? Does that work for y'all?
You do whatever you want. We're just here.
All right. This is becoming a extra collaborative reading, and I'm here for it. Genuinely. So DC Klein, who you've just heard a snake story from, is a small-time poet. His writing has been published by or is forthcoming with Counterclock, Body Fluids, Not My Style, and the Salmon Creek Journal. He's currently reading through the Death Gate cycle. You can find him on Instagram at Drecklin, which will be in the chat. And got those other links in there as well. Now to Danica, Popcorn Danica, for our next bio.
Popcorn. Okay. Dom Witten is a Black poet raised on the end of a one-way street in Detroit, Michigan, who serves as the co-executive director and program facilitator of the Poetics Lab. She received her MFA from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Dom's poems are obsessed with establishing a future with more joy, sass, naps, and emotional accuracy. Her poems are published or forthcoming in Hex Literary, Radar Poetry, Verse Daily, Black Minds Magazine, Greensboro Review, Michigan Quarterly Review, Lindenwood Review, and others. She is the winner of the 2022 Amon Liner Poetry Award and the 2022 Academy of American Poets Prize at UNCG. Please help us welcome Dom and DC reading in a popcorn fashion. Thank you.
I gotta shorten my bio. It has so many words in it. I'm thinking about it. Hi friends, welcome to the Zoom Squares. I feel like before we get into this whole reading shenoozy, I feel like reading on Zoom is always weird. So, if you're a bystander of this whole intervention, feel free to like praise us in the chat. You don't actually, praise is required. I was gonna say it's not required. I lied. I live off of pure claps and hands and snake emojis. It helps us feel like this is real and not like I'm in my room. So, just that helps us. But I'm gonna read some poems. We're gonna go back and forth. We got a little razzle dazzle for you. The first poem I'm going to read is called The Poet's Dress Code. And we're all in it, so you did it. Poet's Dress Code. Wear your blackest black. black pants with studded black belts, black dress to be priestly. Ensure it has black pockets with little black accents, speckled black, flowy black, cozy black, scratchy black, starched black, bedazzled black, black tie, obviously. Black brooches, casket black, orchestra black, revolution black, something slutty with something on top, black, thrift store black, only available online and might end in identity theft, black, naturally aged black, distressed black, borrowed in 2003, black, definitely scanned at self-checkout, black, black leather strap black, from the sniff test pile, black, hey, we listen and we don't judge. Monochromatic static black, throw every flower on your bed and still wear black. You can wear anything. Just make it there. Get out the room, get off the page, and live. And then we're gonna, yeah. Oh, thanks. Then we're gonna, I don't know where the Zoom squares are, but now it's DC.
Right. Back to my little corner. Thank you. Oh, Dom, I love that so much. All right. I feel like such an old man with all these papers in front of me. I'm sorry. I just gotta say it. 28 is when it all goes downhill. Anyway, I'll be I'll be reading this poem next. It's called 1967 Super Beetle. Burnt orange, and eventually it earned 3 precisely drilled holes through the trunk's hood. Somehow, they were used to pop it open when the key was lost. Or perhaps he failed at that too, and created a black, triangular constellation for nothing. I heard the engine, chugging, U-turning on our dusty street as he parked at the curb. I'd look out and see the unmistakable silhouette of the clunker, and I felt relief. The shape of my afternoon could be a movie together, or video games. It could be a dinner during which no one shouts or throws anything. It could be the back of his head by blue light, no words. It could be his face. It could be the CD player in my bedroom, alone. Thank you.
I also have at least 20 things of paper. I don't know why I was like, I need to print extra poems. I don't know why, but something came over me. Um, so this next poem, it's a little short one. It's called Casket Sharp. Um, I wrote it because I've been watching a lot of Interview with the Vampire. All my friends who love me understand that it is my only obsession. I only speak in Lestat gifs. And if you don't think Lestat deserves love, we can fight about that later. But this is a little poem called Casket Sharp. When the time comes, leave my piercings in. Dress the skin in something grift, by the coffin gently used. Sing or pray or laugh. Check your tears at the door. We're only your best bones. See if the wiggly bits fall off. Loneliness scratches us all. So scratch the match black to my useless artifacts, recite my pre-recorded effigies, then go about your promises. You have remained, so remain beautiful.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Oh, geez. All right. Well, I just wanted that to keep going. All right. Let's see. How do you follow that up? Oh, how about something personal? How about that? This poem was inspired by my friend and a brilliant poet, William Erickson. He wrote a poem called William Erickson Poem that was really personal in an interesting way, and raw. And so this is after him, and it's called DC Klein Poem. No idea what a poem was And that Black Friday, slate sky above the Torrey pine, but the backyard was dry. Think of 3 years later. Artificial snowballs in the living room, the grass outside damp under the fresh carcass, and Dad bent, gloved hand, remind you of a poem you'd write later? Father, mirror image of an outcast, a son? He wrapped her, dead in plastic, said, "Your mother can't know about this," blamed neighborhood cats you never saw, said it was all in the past, no one to blame. She sobbed the day after Thanksgiving, a note on the whiteboard where her son once was. No poetry, but psalms, bound in dusty leather. The Lord is my shepherd, wood burned above the bookshelf. No novels, no poetry, only the psalms. I shall not want. And is it godly, the way dead mice want for nothing? No evidence, gloves in the trash, and clean hands, throwing snow made of cotton. My father, who art, enforced retirement, still laughing 3 years later, never saw the van on the gravel drive. Away you went, off God's path, wanting. You were never supposed to want. Love without conditions, doorknobs without locks, mothers and fathers under the slate clean. The van departed. You returned to see what died. Dad's yellow rubber gloves holding it by the neck. And you realize you must live to die, must leave to come back. And that's just it. You never left.
Ooh, I got the chills. Um, so like when we were deciding how we wanted to do all this, we'll like kind of figure it out organically, kind of where poems are going to fit. And since you've got a poem about the humans, I'll read a poem about some humans. Um, some of the humans who are on our Zoom squares, and I have now dropped my papers. Um, they are indicted in these poems. They know who they are. Um, they can choose to reveal themselves if they desire. But this poem is Ode to the Homies, because one day I was trying to write about joy and it's stressful. Um, but here's this poem, Ode to the Homies. There goes one of the homies. When my edges in 2-inch ponytail were held together by rubber bands and dreams, you still hopped in the back of my 2003 Ford Taurus. No AC with leather seats, but we got windows. Cadillac to converter and power steering fucked, but did you die though? No license, but I'm taking my test in Hamtramck come Wednesday. Me and your grandpa are dyeing our hair purple just to spite you. I keep gluten-free pasta for your sister, bring you a box of fries and spicy munchies. Which bitch took your shit out the washer? Let's stick a busted pin in her next load. This house is pro-ho and chaotic justice. We strut in like the Avengers meets Bridgerton meets Sirius Snape meets a catwalk of Canadian tuxedos. I text you before the show so we can be the proper level of extra. Yes, I want pictures of the caves you visited. Here's your joy for today. I love you. I love you. I love you. Of course. In the event of zombies, you know me and my asthma should not be on scout duty. I am a gatherer of grain and stories. It could be 8 months or 8 years. I'll always pick up the phone, play interstate tic-tac-toe via USPS letter. I'll still go to Meijer or Target, inspect each aisle like we're looking for more than excuses to be arms with and silly. I'll meet you halfway at a Best Buy in Auburn Hills, drive 4 hours for your poems and rock music. We can cry or dance or bake cinnamon rolls, sing musicals aggressively off-key from the kitchen floor until we are 7 years old again, painting our nails on newspaper. If you want, you can sit in silence. No productivity required. This is grown friendship, so don't you ever question that I love you. I love you. I love you.
So good. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, okay. Now, popcorn. What's next? Who knows? Let's do something uh something. Here it is. All right. This is historical sites after Jack Kerouac. Walking in Irvington. Good old Irvington. Historical markers all over. A building you wouldn't think twice about. Then you bend over, read on a little plaque, then it's 100 years old. Preserved, but not like a picture. People living in these once dusty halls, getting toiletries delivered to their door, while a black woman outside the cafe, swaying in the cold, asks if I got any change. Well, I told her no at first because I knew I was coming back. Gave her $11 and I never saw her again. I went below the crow-laden boughs, the caw, 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 as organic to me now as the Queen Anne's, Craftsman's, and Prairie School homes, many with cardboard signs, printed in vibrant shades, insisting solidarity, chastising hatred, and encouraging the most meager forms of resistance like cardboard. There, the busted remains of a Biketown bike seat in the raised garden bed of an apartment complex lined with moss and vining things. I remember 10 years ago, Portlanders, the real ones, not double fakes like me, California born, living across the Columbia, saying, "Damn you, Nike, stop gentrifying our city." Those pay-to-ride stalls still common as shoes now. I went deeper into the neighborhood, passing wealth beyond my imagination, peering into free book cubbies, posted perfect before patios, pure drivel and unwanted reference guides, and as I rounded that ancient sentinel, Irvington Elementary, one of those history-making structures jutting out of the concrete, Mediterranean revival, there were no children playing out in the yard. The wind blew an empty trash bin over, plastic smacking concrete like a bad drum among lichen and the dampness that pervades everything. The flag wind whipped at half-mast. The flag. I thought of those children with no idea what all those plaques out here really mean, told to put their hands over their hearts. Weatherman said clouds all day, not a speck of rain. I went around in circles, admiring the bungalows despite myself. Jacket zipped to my neck, hands deep in the caverns of my pockets, fumbling with keys and a few loose papers, and I knew the sun was up there, somewhere. Thank you.
Ooh, I like that one. Like the cool thing about this whole process and is like we all met together once. I can't remember if it was like the beginning of this year, the end of last year. Time is a social construct, and we invented time weird. We can just change time zones because we want to. Um, but so we've been like really communicating a lot in like poems within Google Docs, and so there are some poems that I've never heard before, and so I'm like, I get to be here with you. So this is so exciting. I wasn't going to read this poem, but I think the poem that you just did reminded me that I owned this poem. And so now I'm going to read it. It's called Lineage. Secret poem. Um, a friend of a friend a friend of a friend asks if he's Black since his family's from Egypt. He wants to know where my family's originally from. He wants permission to say it. My family's from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. My greats were enslaved. We all got two names. I've been tokenized and weaponized. No legacy of resistance to stand on still. My hair, unprofessional, voice too loud. White people keep asking me if Detroit is safe, if I've seen a homicide. Everyone on my block knows a firework from a gunshot. Violence is what violence does. Smiley, who sweeps the BP, could be our long lost cousin. Give him $1 so he can sing today. Pray for this concert or pay for his funeral, but don't stare, don't pity. I belong unto myself. My ancestors known and lost are loved, always. The conceit is not my trauma or the rebrand you must know. My mother have names, and my father has blame, and I have the responsibility to carry on.
Yeah. Yes. Once again, I'm like, just keep going, but no, I have to I have to do something. Oops. I signed up for that though, didn't I? I was the one that was like, hey, what if we went back and forth? And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, that's what I chose. All right. This is so wonderful. I'm having a good time. I'm just gonna I have some things I want to keep in my back pocket, you know? So I feel like I have to throw the really weird one out and just put it in the air, and then maybe if it doesn't land, we just kind of forget about it and move on. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this is called exploding. Over the intercom, I heard screams. Red children in scarves, cold for eons. Tape stretched over hot rolls, strung above the city on street lamps. And Johnny fell into a canoe, thin as skin, translucent. Heard bubbling spit over dueling cassette players. Hear me now? Christ, on a bike, it's hot. And the Frog Boys were never heard from again. Forgotten train dreams. Passengers with no qualms about jumping turnstiles. Blue electric batons on police. The virus. A sound. Hear me, Johnny? The intercom screams, bubbling tape. It's a virus. Translucent. Like Frog Boys. Hear me? That's it. Thank you.
The comments are saying that we should get weird. I think we lean into the weird. And in honor of this surveillance aspect of the world, I'm gonna read this poem. It's called Still Forever Poem. So one of the poems that DC, we kind of like put up poems that we wrote that we liked, and then we kind of figured out what the heck we were gonna do with them later. But DC has this poem called Forever Poem, and I'm not sure if it's in the set list or not, but I guess we'll find out. Um, but I wrote this poem called Still Forever Poem after DC Klein. And also shout out, there's two cats here, they're both mine. Shout out Cat B for this line, and Cat B knows what it is. Still Forever Poem after DC Klein. There isn't a home in the attic. No bones, no birds, or death. Just forbidden conversations. This leaf-turning business is stressful. Let's discuss something salacious instead. I'm named after an aardvark or a street fighter. My sister was named after a contract. Mama T say she put hyphens in all her babies' names. I built this algorithm pixel by pixel, named my FBI agent Wanda. Hey Wanda, how you doing, girl? You finally up and leave that no good man? Can you stay on the phone with me tonight? I'm scared I'll blend in with the asphalt. If I don't make it home, please erase all my photos. Only my mama leaves voicemails. All my lovers got lore. Our martyrs don't need my company. The moon is telling all my business. Slide some oil on this rust bucket. Bust the dust off these two-starch trousers while my brain ain't fully developed. Sinning without care of consequence is a young girl's game. Ain't that right, Wanda? You still there? That's it.
I love I love naming it's just thinking about Wanda. Like I can picture her. It's so great. Oh, thank you for sharing that one. I will I wasn't going to, but I will read Forever Poem since you just read that one. And that feels right. Um, if I can find it. If I can't find it, then I won't. I think it's in here. Oh, no, wait, it's in here. I see. Okay. Forever Poem. Frosting glass seagulls make the fog reel, reeling in the catch of the day, message in a glass bottle, bottling up my emotions, and the gulls become a single stone. Stoning our best martyrs ensures they become what we need. Needing you was like needing rocks in the air, birds of frost.
It's me every time. Um, Jeez. Do we want to start moving into like some erasures? Or do we want to keep? Okay, let's
Yeah,
start.
let's do it. Sorry,
Let's
I
do
keep muting and unmuting myself. Yeah, let's do it.
let's do it. So this was DC's idea, of kind of how do we want to incorporate the snake-like nature of the copperhead. And so the idea was that, like snakes shed their skin and like leave it in places weird. So what could we shed of our poems? So that's where this erasure comes in, because poets are poeting. Da 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 da. So I'll read, we did like erasures of each other's poems. So we'll read like the original and then we'll read the erasure of it. And I have this all organized on my desk that has so many pages on it. Let's see. Let's start with when kids leave behind blank Father's Day worksheets. When kids leave behind blank Father's Day worksheets, please don't make a scene and ask them to defend their act of defiance or rebellion or empty spaces, because they will cry. Even if only in the stairway no one wanders through while the other children play football and hopscotch and return to the places they can't wait to show the details their brains have remembered and not reimagine into something forgivable like traffic jams on a highway nearby or astronauts lost in the outer realm or spontaneous combustion, because kids are lovable. Miniature wizards training to be lovable people picking up salamanders, just trying to make it back home.
Oh, thank you so much, Dom. I think you all can understand why I was compelled to choose that as one of the poems for the erasure. It's so good by itself. So the challenge of trying to find something else in there was monumental, and it won't be as good as that, but you'll hear it anyway, because that's how this works. So I did an erasure of that poem that Dom just read, and it's called When Kids Leave Fathers. Please don't ask if other children return back home. Thank you. Oh, and so now I guess I'll read, right, okay.
I was just gonna.
I'm getting it. We're on the same wavelength. All right, so this is a poem of mine that Dom did an erasure of, and it is called Clay. Find your God. He'll always be the last place you look. I kept searching in my ceramics class. Back then, a girl half my age liked me. She asked me to tie her shoe. As I bent down to knot the laces, she busied her hands untying the other one. I learned how to score raw clay, how to carefully place unfinished pieces in a kiln, and indirect, disingenuous forms of communication. I learned how to ignore unwanted attention, to not play into it. California, an art classroom unattached to a rec room with a billiard table. Once, the teacher, 10 kids or so, and myself, also a kid but old enough to volunteer, we all froze when an earthquake buzzed the floor, rattled our faux wood tables and their metal legs. Oh, the teacher said, her voice kind, almost excited. Do you feel that? The small sculpture I made that day was also God. When it had been fired, glazed in white, it held God on a shelf in my father's office. He'd answer calls, technical support, this is Don, how can I help? And if not on his computer screen, his eyes saw school photos, my face bare and hairless in those innocent years, and surrounded by those photos and odd thrift store frames, the countless gods I gave him, figures, teeth, geometric shapes, all born of my hands and heat. I never told him they were God. I thought he knew. Like the tremors, they are gone and not gone. Thank you.
So good. I remember when I was like reading this poem, I was like trying to decide like which ones I wanted to do erasures of. I'm like, there's so many like little nuggets in here, and I was like, DC. I don't do a lot of erasure poems, and so I got to see like DC do the erasures of mine first, and I was like, oh, DC knows how to do erasure. Like I'm about to learn something, and so my erasures aren't going to be as good as the original at all, and I'm okay with that because process is important. So here's the erasure of DC's clay poem. God, the last busied play art attached a kid earthquake I made God. Held God in my father's eyes, bear God's teeth born of my hands, God, and that's it. Um, okay. So my next poem, I get silly in poems. This is where the sass, just like when I say I want more sass in the world, I want everyone to write sassy poems. So here's this poem called Me and Other Bodily Accessories. And I wanted the title to be extra because I can. Um, I'd be a better lover, but the bitch I have become is more interested in penguin documentaries. Fact. Penguins have done more for humanity than the NBA, and that's on my mama. I am my mother's loneliness. Stubborn enough to want despite what wanting got me this week. I clambered my bones into the lap of a statue and looked and dreamed. Every man I've kissed, I've fucked. Some men can only bring dick and dust on a busted air mattress. I am not a guide for every traveler of loss. Sometimes I fake interview important people, ask where they've been keeping Jimmy Hoffa and my father. Everyone has a theory on making love. I've loved a man enough to know I'd rather not. I still want ritual and elegance, someone to know how I arrange spices and anthologies to squish my squishy and call me beautiful. I want to gyrate this sloppy Joe paradise across every ballroom between here and Murfreesboro, Tennessee. What if, what if I want it all? That's it.
So good. So good. All right. So I did make an erasure of that poem, and I like erasing part of the title too. So this erasure of Dom's wonderful poem is me and access. The humanity on my stubborn wanting, my bones, only air. I am not my father. Everybody has to know I still want to know, and I want to be here. I want it. Thank you. That is all we had for erasures.
Thrift store.
Oh no, wait. Wait, there is mine. Oh yeah,
I
I've got
wasn't
it
gonna let
here.
you forget it. I remember reading it, and I wasn't gonna let you forget it off the docket.
Oh no, I wouldn't take it off. No, this is actually a poem that was in my self-published chapbook, which is really fun. So this is an oldie but a goodie, hopefully. Um, and I will read it, and then Dom will read the erasure. So, thrift store checkout. The art of drowning, said the Goodwill cashier, with the paperback book meeting her furrowed brow, with its disconcerting title and painting of a dog at the edge of some coast on the tan yellow cover. She flipped through a couple pages saying, "Oh, this is poetry." And she scanned the tag so I could purchase this guide to death by water for a mere $2.99. Yes, I replied, hence the unsettling title. I know I sounded rude or condescending. I did not mean to. Above her mouth and nose covered by a mask and under her clear-rimmed glasses, I was sure I saw the eyes of someone who loves to read. So I made my pretentious joke, regretting it moments later. When I read the title, she continued, scanning a blue Christmas mug, I thought it said the drawing. Damn it, she scolded herself. I cannot speak today. I thought it said the art of drawing. She was embarrassed for bungling her words, and I was ashamed for speaking arrogantly. And Billy Collins laughed somewhere, musing about this hypothetical conversation that was real, just unknown to him, and his book being sold at a thrift store. I wish I could learn how to draw, I said, using my card to pay, with my head tilted down, drowning already. Thank you.
I also can't draw. There are a few poets who can draw and poet, and every time I meet one in the wild, I'm like, wow, do you also do carpentry in your spare time? Um, but in honor of DC, I thought I'd also erase part of the title. So this is DC's Thrift. Drowning. Oh, this is poetry. Guided, regretting, continued, damn art, embarrassed, hypothetical thrift. I wish I could learn how to drown already. Um, Unless DC has some more poems up his sleeve. I think we've got our contrapuntal last. That sound right?
I'm still muted. Yes, we can definitely do it. So
Um,
we wanted to do, oh my gosh, I need to find it. So we wanted to do, Dom, you'll read your side, I'll read my side, and then we'll read the whole thing together. Is that correct?
yeah, we'll read it like left side, right side, and then across.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, I'm first. Haha. Um,
Now I
Funny
just
story when you have to title things last minute, you just have to title them. So this is called Copperhead Contrapuntal, um, because it needed a title. Butterflies could be good swimmers or incorrectly filed taxes. A modest take on sanity, I've been dancing more and more short-tempered ruins longing to exhaust my former shell.
nice. Okay. Believe it or not, this is also called Copperhead Contrapuntal. And thank you to Dom for coming through with a title when I completely forgot that a poem needs a title, as I do when I'm writing poetry in my notebook. I apologize. This is the right side. Without the weight of water, which I long for, in my immodest daydreams, with wallflower caterpillars crawling anywhere but within reach.
And now we'll read it all together just across because we love a good contrapuntal.
Mhm.
And this is going to be fun. This is the first time we've ever done this. So it'll go well. It has no other choice to. Butterflies could be good swimmers
Without the weight of water,
or incorrectly filed taxes.
which I long for
A modest take on sanity.
in my immodest daydreams,
I've been dancing more
with wallflower caterpillars,
in more short-tempered ruins,
crawling
longing to exhaust my former shell.
anywhere but within reach. Oh, I'm gonna say that's a success. And why does anyone rehearse anything ever when
Right?
you can do it like that on the first try?
That was our set. It was fun. It was weird. Um, you can ask questions, I guess. If you have booing, I will ask that you send them in a templated email in Times New Roman font, and I will get back to you in
Yeah.
3 to 5 business years.
Yeah, we have a form on an archaic website that doesn't
Yes.
really work because we don't want to hear it. We really don't.
I mean, I think this is the part where I usually say, like, let's continue our applause for our two poets. I mean, that was amazing. But in this case, continuing applause based on the wonderful like crowd response so far is going to be animal emojis. I believe we got dead mice, penguins in documentaries, birds as frost. There was the butterflies. Snakes are always welcome here. The Ford Taurus, I guess we could get us some bulls in the chat. And I believe that there was also a request for Lestat memes. So those are also accepted as applause. So yeah, everyone, obviously you've all been wonderful so far and active in the chat. If anyone has questions, you can post it in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask. So we'll let that hang for 20, 30 seconds as we decompress. Yeah, and anything you want to say to our poets?
Yeah, we would love to hear it.
Yeah.
We have demands for an encore.
We will do our best.
Yeah. Dom, you got something to lead the encore?
I got another forever poem.
Oh, see, there we go. Do it.
But yet, wait, there's one more. You get one encore and then you got to pay for it. So not that I have any, like you have to pay by submitting like funds through DC's GoFundMe. Forever poem, the first one after DC Klein. And yes, when I say bingeful disasters, I am specifically talking about binging Interview with the Vampire. In case you were curious for the non-existent context that you need to understand the poem, just know that I like it. Skin and sweat from last week's bingeful disasters make new homes of ripped blankets, and there's a direct correlation between brain chemistry and hygiene, PhD students and spoon theory, and the scientific definition of goals. Simply put, I am needing you. The will to scream from a rock, then continue about my busy hobbies with consistency, photographs showing proof of existence. Who will believe I've been in need if my body scabs over to perfection? We are stretched across archaic tools of language, each breath more inefficient than the last. I forgot why I was walking, so I stopped in the middle of an airport high off overpriced sodium, and the world kept spinning. That is the only encore I've got. That's all I got.
That was a perfect encore. I'm so happy about that. And I'm so glad that you felt compelled to write those forever poems. I think I've written a lot of poems with that in the title. It's obviously a very like interesting concept and word to think about. My wife just handed me an old copy of my chapbook, and has reminded me that I have a poem in here called Forever Number Two, and that will be our encore poem for the evening. Um, Forever Number Two. A love letter to my mother with no mention of the word love. Love in the letter to my mother lies in every word. Mother, the love in my letter is the letter, and that it exists. That's it.
Yay. I don't think we can read any more poems. I think that is like the poem to end all. That is the forever of poems.
That is the forever. It was the number two of the sequel, the dramatic sequel to Forever Poems. Infinity 2 times 2.
Infinity squared.
Infinity squared. We keep adding things to pretend like we're adding more, but we've already kind of outdone ourselves with infinity. Oops.
Exactly.
Well, thank you all for both answering the call for an encore. I hope I didn't obligate you to do something you didn't want to do, but
No, that's fine.
I'm so amazed that y'all followed through so spectacularly. So I have a question I've kind of been stewing on, and I'll see if I can articulate it. So we joked a little bit early on, I think, about time as a construct, and we were talking about time zones and stuff like that. But I was interested in time in both of your works. I mean, there were a lot of ruins. Um, in the present, there were looking at ruins, but also thinking about the zombie apocalypse. Is thinking to some extent about our current space after a certain kind of time. But I'm thinking about then mostly about time passing and like moss growing and things like that. And another thing that I thought was interesting is back to back, you both had poems that mentioned cars with years. The Superbug, I forgot to write down the year.
Oh, 1967, which was my best guess as to what my father's car was, but he had several Volkswagen Beetles that had, in the grand scheme of things for our family, short lives. But I'm sure they were driven by many people, many, many, many miles.
Yeah. The thing I was thinking about those cars is like the 2003 Ford Taurus and the 67 Superbug, like both in the poems there was like such a clear like sort of feeling of like that date number as a
Mm,
vintage almost like like that these cars age like fine wines was sort of the thought in my head. And so I'd be
mhm,
interested just to hear you both talk about time and what time even across a short range. 67 is not that long ago. 2003 isn't really that long ago. So I'd like to hear you, yeah, talk about time and temporality related to these poems written in the present about spaces, sort of looking at things. There was the elementary school
mm.
that was mentioned as Mediterranean revival was the sort of architectural style. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm interested in how you see the quality of time in these pieces that we've heard tonight.
I think you should take it first, DC.
Oh, well, you denied me the privilege of saying the same thing to you, so I will answer the question. And I can just talk about it without stopping because time isn't real. Anyway, no, that's an excellent question, Jace. In the poem mentioning the elementary school in particular, I was really struck walking around Portland, which I do very often because I have to cross the river and be over there all the time. I was really struck by the sense of history, the sense of certain things having been there forever. That elementary school that is very actively used by teachers and children for like a real education is on the historic registry. It's a very old building, but also in its Mediterranean revival style is also designed to look even older than it actually is. And I was really shocked by the incongruity of everything. Like there are homes here that are over 100 years old, but in the span of America in terms of colonization and the existence of this country, everything's really short. Like it's not been very long. And I was thinking about the legacy of that and trying to juggle disagreeing almost like senses of time. And yeah, that's the relevance of like the architecture for me. And then the car, I'd love to hear what Dom has to say about the Ford Taurus, because there's something about cars to me where you say Ford Taurus and just like an image of one rotating in my mind is immediately there. Like I can just see it from all angles, you know. It's a perfect thing to mention, I feel like. But yeah, the Super Beetle, I think the date of it is important, but for me it was just how strongly associated that was with a specific person. And I think a lot of people have experienced like vehicles and modes of transportation that are really linked to the people you associate with them. So that's the relevance of that for me.
I mean, vehicles are important. I live in Detroit. I'm from Detroit, right? So like we are the motor city. Cars is like if you can't drive, it's seen as like this really weird thing. Um, and it's like, and I like my sister can't drive and she has 5 kids, and I've just always been
Mm.
impressed how she exists in the world with the little tiny tots. Um, in that particular poem, the 2003 Ford Taurus was like it represented how I became an adult into the world. Like I could drive myself to school, but also I don't know why parents are ruining this for kids these days, but like your first car is supposed to be horrible because it's supposed to build character. And so when I said
Right.
the power steering was like the lowest item of things that were wrong on that vehicle. That vehicle still exists today. It is in our family friend's backyard. He is a mechanic. I've been paying him in banana pudding for years. It is the most important currency. And so that is like the car itself. Like it is, my friends still make fun of this car. Like the windshield wiper used to go like off the side of it. Like even the car that I currently drive is so known to the people whom I'm around that at some point, like I just sent a little red Jeep and like a little red car emoji, you know, that means that I'm outside. Like you know my vehicle wherever I go. And so like
Right.
that's the car piece. But when I'm thinking about time, I think about it, I guess, in like 2 ways. When you're learning how to write poems in a very academic state,
Mm.
there's this heavy force on really centering poems in the present always, because the words that we use for the past often have like these extra like syllables on them. They're not sometimes as saucy or spicy, and I have my own thoughts
Mm.
and feelings about that, right? So it forces you to write things as they are actively happening, and I like to
Mm.
push back on that because I just think that's crazy. I think if you can write something well about the past, then you can write something well about the past. But also, what is much more interesting is that if we talk about time being a social construct, then why can't we do like what our great friend Toni Morrison does, and we really manipulate what is past and exactly when we are experiencing past and how that is
Mm.
an active force on our future. But also in another vein, I feel like at a roughly 10:30 p.m. every day is when time kind of like stops in your brain and it stops becoming real, because you're
Yeah.
like at that weird thing of like you've experienced a full day, but now your brain is kind of in tomorrow. And so there's this weird loophole of where time does and does not exist. And I've been
Yeah.
told that all of my poems sound like they are at night by a lovely friend, and he's not wrong. Um, and so that is what I'm interested in time, is how do we manipulate it so that we can do fun things, that when we're stopping at an airport, it is like I'm stopping at an airport, but I am stopping at the intersection of all airports and all gates. And I was also at the Atlanta International Airport, which is the busiest airport in the world. And so time really doesn't exist. Um,
No.
and it
Yeah.
is a horrible place. I don't care what they say, that airport sucks. We do airport shaming, apparently. But they're lovely staff, horrible design.
Oh, the place can be horrible and the people can be great. That's two
I
things.
almost fell
That,
down an escalator with a checked bag, and it was just so much. But
yeah,
someone offered to help me. They were so kind.
that's good.
So yeah, that's our rambles on time.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
I
you. I
think you
appreciate that. Oh, sorry. Go
oh,
ahead.
we're interrupting each other. I was just gonna say, I think you should do a second Copperhead season 6.5 where it's just the two of you talking about time.
Yeah.
I'm
But
down for
sorry,
TED
James, what were
Talks
you
on
gonna say?
time.
Last call for any of the audience folks out there. Any questions or further emojis for our poets? And no one has
Accepting more
answered the call for
emojis.
Lestat memes still. Although, of course, like there's the wide internet afterwards, where you can always follow up later.
That's true.
I just want to say while we're waiting to see if anyone has questions, that experience was so joyful. Like your joy and like the way that you were interacting with one another was like infectious and filled the whole Zoom room. And I want to thank you so much for that. Was the process of like working with one another joyful as well? Like writing the contrapuntal and stuff, or you could just like talk about that process. I'd love to hear how you wrote the contrapuntal.
Yeah, you can start. Go for it.
No, I was gonna say I had very little to do with the organizing of the contrapuntal, and I was relying on Dom like a rock if I was lost at sea, like please help. And yeah, we had a table in the document. Dom, you could probably talk more about it, but
Yeah, so this is so me and my friend Cat B, who's our little Zoom square. We do this event in Detroit called Wordplay and Libations. And it's really just an excuse for us to try out things poetically on people. And we came up with this idea randomly about writing collaborative contrapuntals. And it was so weird and it's really hard to do. And I was like, well, I've done it with Kat. I've done it with some other people in a workshop. I should make DC do this because everyone should feel this trauma. It is a group trauma that all poets should have. And so that's like the baseline of it. But also I think that like writing a contrapuntal is hard to do it. To be honest, I find it easier to do with another person
mm,
because also I've been talking about contrapuntals like everyone knows the heck a contrapuntal is. A contrapuntal is a poem that can be read multiple ways. So I've seen them in 2 columns, I've seen them in 3 columns. You can get really fancy and have all kinds of columns. A really famous one is by Jamal May. I do have a seam, so if you're looking for good contrapuntals, it's always a fantastic one. I'm gonna say in that poem, there's even a little like there's like one word in the center between them. But essentially, right, like you can lead it left column, then right column, or across, and it's fun and exciting. Our process was just that like every day we'd go in and write a line. And so you have to try to account for what's going to happen on the other side, but then also what's going to happen underneath you. And so it's really fun and creepy. Um, I was just trying to write the most out of the box lines I could think of.
I
Because
don't think I didn't notice.
you noticed. I was just like, I'm about to mess with DC. I'm like, I'm about to start us off with some nonsense. Did you end up with like one word line?
I love to do that type of thing in a poem too. Sometimes one word's all you need. And yeah.
The crawling line was iconic. I got a text that was just like, I submitted my line. It's one word. And so like we would just like text back and forth. I'm like, I added my line. And it's like you go in and you're like, what did we create?
Yeah. You kind of
and
Frankensteined it together and it turned out really good.
Yeah. And then all I did was then make the column white and got rid of it. And that way no one can see the columns for the sake of formatting. Gotta be thinking ahead against the Word document. But if you want to get closer to a poet or you want to get closer to a friend, write a collaborative contrapuntal. It'll teach you things about that person's brain.
Yeah. I'm glad we were able to do it because I feel like, and being in the document in general and being able to see you drafting poems and read some of them, I felt like we really got to know each other leading up to this, which was really cool, and I think helped our rapport here, which was awesome. I so appreciate being able to do this with you, Dom. It was awesome.
It was so cool. I'm so sorry about the late night text. I was like, I forget that we're in different time zones. I can't remember if this is late DC's time or early DC's time. But also, I'm like, I'm just texting a married man at the wrong hour, and I should really apologize when I see him next.
Wait. Thank you for the concern. I appreciate it, but it never ended up being a problem. Oh, uh, looks like M. Klein would like to know about Dawn's astrological sign. So my father, Donald, is that no? I know, Dom. I think that's for you.
I am a Taurus. I have been told that I act like a Taurus. I don't know what that means, but also someone was
And you drove a Ford Taurus?
I did, right? Um,
Oh my God.
there's a lot of weird things about my when I say like I'm named after an aardvark. So my initials are DW, and I had an older brother named Arthur who wore circular glasses, and I had a small yellow dog with white paws. So like I
Oh.
legitimately am named after an aardvark accidentally. And it's an aardvark, not a bear. Never get the two confused.
No, no, I wouldn't. Have you ever seen that book of Arthur where it's like the original character design and he's got the
Yeah.
long snout? Yeah, he looked way more Aardvarkian uh, back in the day. But yeah, it's probably the right move to change that a little bit. But yeah, that's so cute. That's so cute. I love Arthur and Andy W. That's really cute.
And my older brother will tell you that I act like DW, and I'm like, "Mm, that's what you would say, wouldn't you? Tisk, tisk, tisk."
That's too good. No. Oh,
I will absolutely echo what Danica said. It's been wonderful to hear like such a joyful collaboration, and from our view, like if the collaboration continues, just keep us in the loop. We wanna hear and read and see it all. Thank you both so much for this. It really was such a joy.
thank you both. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Everyone should sign up to do the snakes. It's great. It's weird and great, and you'll have some fun. Mm.
Thank you so much for the plug. We really appreciate it. Danica, any closing words?
No, just thanks to the audience for being here and being great sports and like having fun in the chat. Um, yeah, I think that's everything. Thanks to Dom and DC.
Yeah, and apologies to multiple audience members who I was sending direct message snake and clapping emojis. Those were meant to go out wide, but I am not very good at this. The chat was so active, I was having trouble keeping up.
The snakes will do
Um,
that to you.
Yeah. Just stumbling through this together. It's all right.
well, thank you all so much. Everyone have a great night. Such a joy. Thank you.
Bye, friends.